My name is Wren Calloway. I'm 34 years old, and 8 months ago, I held proof in my hands that my entire childhood had been witnessed by someone I had never met. Not read. Witnessed. Like they were there. Like they knew. I was standing in a thrift store in Portland, fingers flipping through a dusty bin of old journals, when I felt it. The cover. Worn blue canvas with a small star drawn in the corner. My hand started shaking before my brain caught up, because I drew that star. I was 9 years old when I drew that star. I should have dropped it, walked away, but I opened it, and what I found inside didn't just shake me. It rewired me. Someone had finished my diary, and what they wrote. They knew things. Things I never told anyone. If you're new here, please like this video and subscribe. Drop a comment below. Where are you watching from? Every single one of you matters to this story, because this story, it's not just mine anymore. Let me take you back to where it all started. It was a Tuesday. Nothing about that morning felt significant. I'd stopped at Goodwill on Burnside Street looking for a lamp. That was it. A lamp. I wasn't browsing. I wasn't nostalgic. I was tired from a double shift and running on gas station coffee. The journal bin was near the back. I almost didn't stop, but something slowed my feet. I reached in without thinking, and the second my fingers touched that cover, that specific texture, my stomach dropped before my eyes even confirmed it. Blue canvas. Slightly faded. One small hand-drawn star in the bottom right corner. My star. I stood completely still. The store noise disappeared. A woman bumped my shoulder and kept walking. I didn't move. I just stared at it sitting in my hands like it was something that shouldn't exist outside of a memory. I hadn't seen this diary since I was 9 years old. I hadn't thought about it in years. And now here it was under fluorescent lights, wedged between a stranger's recipe book and a water-damaged self-help manual. How did it get here? Who had it? And why did it feel like it had been waiting? I didn't open it. Not yet. I just held it. The cover had a water stain near the spine that wasn't there before. The corners were bent differently. Someone had carried this. Lived near it long enough to leave marks on it. I bought it for 75 cents. The cashier didn't look up. I sat in my car for 11 minutes before I touched it again. I watched the dashboard clock like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. My coffee went cold. This diary was a Christmas gift from my grandmother. 1999. She wrapped it in gold paper and said, "Write down everything, Wren. Everything you feel. So you never forget who you are." She died 4 months later. It was the last gift she ever gave me. I wrote in it for 1 year. Every fight with my mother. Every lunch eaten alone. The night I heard my parents through the wall and understood for the first time that adults could be just as lost as children. I stopped writing in June 2001. I was 10. I don't remember why. I don't remember losing it either. It was just gone one day. Until Tuesday. I opened it in the car. Hand steady. Breathing not. The first page was mine. My handwriting. 9 years old. Uneven letters, some capitals where they shouldn't be. I'd written my full name inside the cover. Wren Calloway, age 9, this is private. I actually laughed. One short broken sound. Then I turned the page. And the laugh stopped. My entries were exactly as I remembered. Small panics dressed up as big emergencies. The kind only a child thinks are world-ending. I read 3 pages without blinking. It was like watching myself through a window I didn't know existed. Then I hit June 14, 2001. My last entry. 6 lines. Messy. Rushed. It ended mid-sentence. Today was bad because Mom said we might have to. That was it. That's where I stopped. 23 years ago. I turned the page expecting blank paper. It wasn't blank. Different handwriting. Smaller. Neater. Ink instead of pencil. And at the top of the page, a date September 3, 2001. 3 months after I stopped. 3 months after that diary disappeared from my life completely. Someone had picked up exactly where I left off. My throat closed. I read the first line 3 times. Then I looked up, stared through the windshield at the parking lot, and said nothing. Because I had no words for what I was looking at. I turned back to my own entries. Read them slowly this time. The girl in those pages was small and certain about everything. Certain that her teacher hated her. Certain her best friend Sarah was pulling away. Certain that the new house her parents kept arguing about would ruin everything. She was right about 2 out of 3. I hadn't thought about Sarah in 15 years. Reading her name in my own 9-year-old handwriting hit differently than I expected. 1 line. Sarah didn't wait for me at the gate again. That was it. No drama. Just a fact recorded by a child who didn't yet know that some people leave quietly. I kept reading. There was an entry about my father's hands. How they looked different after he lost his job. How he held his coffee cup with both hands now, mornings just staring. I was 9 when I wrote that. I didn't understand what I was seeing, but I wrote it down exactly as my grandmother told me to. Page after page. Small moments. Specific details. The smell of our hallway. The sound of the upstairs neighbor. The exact shade of my bedroom curtains. Nobody else alive knew these things. Nobody should have been able to continue this story. But someone did. And they started on page 47 like they had every right to be there. Page 47. I stared at it for a long time. The handwriting switched completely. No warning. No introduction. Just different ink, different hand, different person. Like someone had simply picked up the pen and decided the story wasn't finished. The date at the top read September 3, 2001. I was 10 that September. Already in a new school. Already pretending the old life hadn't existed. The first line read. She stopped writing, but I don't think she meant to. I put the diary down on the passenger seat. Picked it back up. Read it again. She stopped writing, but I don't think she meant to. This person knew it was someone else's diary. They weren't confused. They weren't just filling empty pages. They made a deliberate choice to continue a child's private journal, and they opened with that line like an explanation, like a justification, like they'd thought about it. My mind went to the obvious places immediately. A sibling? No. I was an only child. A classmate who found it? Possible. A neighbor? Someone who broke into our house? Someone my parents knew? The next line stopped every theory cold. I know this family. I know what happened after June. She deserves to know how the story continued. They called me she. They knew me. And they knew something about my family that apparently I didn't. I photographed every page before I drove home. 31 photos. Both hands shaking by the last one. A woman walked past my car window and I nearly dropped my phone. I wasn't ready to be seen holding this. The stranger had written 14 entries. September 2001 through March 2002. 6 months. Consistent. Deliberate. Never missing more than 2 weeks between entries. This wasn't impulsive. Someone had sat down repeatedly, opened a child's diary, and written in it like it was their own quiet ritual. That detail scared me more than anything else. I studied the handwriting the way you study a face you don't recognize but feel like you should. Small letters. Left margin always clean. No crossouts. Every entry written like the first draft was the final draft. Whoever this was, they thought before they wrote. They signed nothing. No name. No initial. Just entries dated then stopped. March 11, 2002. Last entry. Then blank pages the rest of the way through. Why did they stop? Did something happen? Did they feel guilty? Did they lose the diary the same way I did, suddenly without meaning to? One detail kept pulling my attention back. The ink color changed twice. 3 different pens across 14 entries. This person carried this diary with them. Wrote in different places, different moments. They lived with my childhood in their bag. I read the 14 entries in one sitting. Kitchen floor. Back against the cabinet. Didn't move for 40 minutes. The first 3 entries were observational. The stranger described my old neighborhood. Our street. The elm tree that sat crooked outside our house. Details so specific my chest physically tightened reading them. This person had been there. Stood on that street. Looked at that tree. Entry 4 stopped me cold. They wrote about my mother. Not by name. Just her mother. They described her standing in the driveway one evening, luggage at her feet, not moving. Just standing. Like she was deciding something. I called my mother that night. First time in 3 months. She picked up on the second ring. I didn't mention the diary. I just said, "Mom, did you ever almost leave?" Long silence. Then, "Who told you that?" I hung up. Sat with that answer for 2 days before I touched the diary again. Because that silence confirmed everything. My mother had stood in that driveway. The stranger had seen it. And nobody, not once in 23 years, had ever told me. Entry 9 was worse. The stranger wrote, "The little girl left drawings under her bed. I found 3. I kept them safe. I drew constantly at 9. I drew everywhere. Someone had my drawings. I made a list. Old neighbors. Former babysitters. Friends of my parents. Anyone who had access to our house between 1999 and 2002. 17 names. I wrote them on a yellow legal pad and stared at them like one would suddenly glow. None of them felt right. I called my father first. Kept it casual. Asked about the old neighborhood. Who still lived there. Who he remembered. He talked for 20 minutes about a man named Gerald who used to fix cars in his driveway. I steered him toward the house. Asked if anyone ever had a spare key. He paused. Then why are you asking about the old house, Wren? I told him I'd driven past it recently. He accepted that. Gave me 2 names. A woman named Patrice who babysat me twice. A college student who rented the basement for 8 months in 2001. I wrote both names down and underlined the second one 3 times. A college student. Living in our basement. Present exactly during the months the stranger was writing. Old enough to write with that kind of consistency. Close enough to know our routines, our driveway, the elm tree, my mother's worst moment. I searched the name my father gave me that same night. 1 result. A LinkedIn profile. A woman. Mid-40s now. Living in Seattle. I clicked on her photo and felt the air leave the room. The photo was small. Slightly blurred. The kind people upload once and never update. I stared at it looking for something familiar. Nothing came. But her timeline matched perfectly. College aged in 2001. Portland area. Same city as our old house. I sent a connection request. No message. Just the request sitting there like a held breath. 3 days. No response. I searched her name everywhere. Facebook locked. Instagram private. 1 abandoned blog from 2008. For posts. Nothing useful. Every wall hit fast and quietly. I drove to Portland on a Thursday. Parked on my old street. Sat there 20 minutes. The elm tree was gone. House repainted gray. A child's bicycle on the porch that used to be ours. I knocked. A man in his 30s answered. Bought it 6 years ago. Never heard of Patrice. Knew nothing about a basement tenant. Dead end. I drove home with nothing. Checked my phone at every red light. Then Friday. 6:17 a.m. 1 notification. She hadn't accepted my request. She'd deleted her profile entirely. No trace. Like she'd seen my name and disappeared on purpose. I sat with that for a long time. Because disappearing isn't something innocent people do. I almost stopped looking. Almost. But that deleted profile kept pulling at me. Innocent people don't vanish. They ignore. They decline. They leave requests sitting forever. They don't scrub themselves from the internet within hours of being found. She knew who I was. Which meant she'd thought about this moment before it arrived. I went back to my father. This time direct. No casual conversation. I told him I was trying to find the woman who rented the basement in 2001. Said I thought she might have something of mine. Silence. Then Wren, why does it matter now? I said Dad. Her name. Anything else you remember? He gave me a last name. I had a full name now. I ran it through every angle. Nothing current. Nothing useful. Then I tried something smaller. Local newspaper archives. Portland community pages. Old university directories. Third search. A name match. A graduation listing. Class of 2003. With a department. English literature. English literature. Someone who studied words. Who understood the weight of them. Who would know exactly what it meant to continue a child's diary, rather than simply read it and set it down. I found her alumni email. Outdated but there. I wrote 4 different versions of the same message. Deleted 3. Sent the 4th at midnight. Then I waited. She replied in 11 hours. No greeting. No apology. Just I wondered if this day would come. I'm glad it's you asking and not someone else. I read it 4 times. Hands completely still this time. Something had shifted. The chase was over. Whatever came next was something different entirely. I typed back immediately, you have my drawings. 3 minutes. Then yes, I have 3. They're in good condition. I closed my laptop. Walked to my kitchen. Drank an entire glass of water standing at the sink. Then went back. We emailed for 6 days before I called her. Her name was Delia. 44 years old. Currently living in Bellingham. She spoke quietly. Chose every word carefully. Exactly how she wrote. She told me she found the diary in the basement room the day she moved in. Previous tenant had left boxes. My diary was inside one. She almost threw it away. Instead she read it in one sitting. She said, "You were so honest." I'd never read anything that honest in my life. And then it just stopped mid-sentence and I couldn't bear that. She wasn't a predator. Wasn't unstable. She was a 21-year-old literature student who found a child's unfinished story and couldn't leave it that way. But she still knew things she shouldn't. And I still needed to ask her how. I asked her directly, "How did you know about my mother in the driveway?" Delia was quiet for a moment. Then I saw it. I was coming home late. She was just standing there with a bag. I didn't know what I was seeing until I read your diary and understood the context. My mother had almost left. That night was real. And a stranger had carried that secret for 23 years without telling a soul. I asked about the drawings. She mailed them the next day. 3 pages. Crayon. One was of our house. One was of my grandmother. One was of a girl standing alone at a school gate. I held that last one for a long time. Delia and I have spoken 6 times since. We aren't friends exactly. Something without a clean name. She gave me back pieces of myself I didn't know were missing. The diary sits on my desk now. All 47 pages mine. 14 pages hers. One story. 2 people. Neither of us planned it. My grandmother said write everything down so you never forget who you are. I forgot anyway. Life does that. But somehow a stranger in a basement, a diary in a bin, and a Tuesday I almost didn't stop, gave me back the girl on page 1. I didn't expect that. I'm still not sure what to do with it.